Hello, my name is Brian Williams, and I'm an engineer on the Threat Insight team. We have an OKR this quarter that every development team member needs to contribute to AI in some way. For my contribution to this OKR, I decided to do some research on what it would take to self-host an AI model in an open AI compatible way so that it could support our AI features with a self-hosted model. I decided to share my findings in a video format just because it's relatively low effort as compared to doing a large write-up. So for my research, I've been looking at an open source project called FastChat. This is an open platform for training, serving, and evaluating large language models. And I've been looking at what it takes to run this on your own model. So I've been tinkering with this for about a day, and I found that the requirements are, kind of extensive. 28 gigabytes of GPU memory. And I found, this one requires 60 gigabytes of CPU memory. And my machine does not have the hardware to run this. So what I decided to do is go check out our sandbox cloud. And we have a handbox page for this. It's a sandbox cloud RAM. And I have never used this before, but I went and checked this out and it was very easy. You just go to GitLab sandbox.cloud and you can sign in with Okta. And then when you get in here, you can click create an individual account and you walk through the steps and you basically just have to fill out a few forms and it automatically creates a Google Cloud account for you. And so I thought that this was extremely neat. And I was able to quickly get my own Google Cloud account. And then I went and created a virtual machine that has the hardware that I need. And what I have here is a VM. And whenever I finish doing my research for the day, or if I'm going to quit for a few hours, I stop the virtual machine. So that way it doesn't really cost us anything. It costs less than $1 an hour. So it's a really neat way to get my hands on some really beefy hardware without having to spend anything, really. And so I have an NVIDIA GPU on this machine. I got a really big boot disk, 200 gigabytes. These days, that's not huge, but I got 200 gigabyte disks so that I can download the models without having to worry about running out of disk space. The first time I tried it, I did run out of disk. And so I just got this machine and my GPU. I want to show you my GPU, but I'm not sure where it is. But it's an NVIDIA GPU with 32 gigabytes of memory. And I had to get that in order to run the models. And so what I've just been doing is using the browser SSH to connect to this VM. And that way I have the hardware that I need to try experimenting with this. And I was able to get the models working locally. And I'm really impressed with this software. There is a platform called Hugging Face, which I didn't know about, where people can share models here. And so this is very similar to a Git repository, except it holds models. And you can use FastChat to run any model from Hugging Face. It's actually amazing. You can just do monopath, and you can pass this a flag like Facebook Dino VBit16. You can pass this as monopath, and it will download this model and run it. So that's something that I didn't know about before that I thought is really cool. And like the quickest way to run this, like besides setting up a machine with the machine specs, I found that you have to have Python 3.10 or newer. And this Debian machine doesn't have that in the package manager. It only has Python 3.7. So I ended up having to install Python from source. And you also have to have CUDA. So I had to go to this Google page to install the GPU drivers. I picked a deep learning image, which is supposed to have these drivers pre-installed, but for some reason it wasn't working. So I had to go and download this GPU driver install script and run that in order to install my drivers. But after I did that, I rebooted the VPN and I rebooted the VM and it started working. And I have my NVIDIA GPU available now, and it works with FastChat, so that's great. So the easiest way to run this is to use serve.cli. So this downloads a model from Hugging Face and runs it. I want to make sure that I use Python 3.10 because Python 3 we'll use the 3.7 one. But here I can use Python serve CLI with Python 3.10, and it uses this FastChat T5 model, which you can get without any restriction. And then this creates a CLI chat, and so you can ask it questions like what is DevOps? And the model will reply to you. And so this is really cool. I'm just running this on my VM. There's no network connections happening here. It's all local. And this is an 8-core machine with 64 gigabytes of RAM. And the GPU has 32 gigabytes of memory. So in addition to this, we can also take this a step further. This can also run any model with an OpenAI compatible API. So this can serve the same model behind an API that is the exact same interface as what our AI features are already using. And using FastChat, we could run any model that we want and serve it behind an OpenAI API interface. So I'll show you how to do that as well. They have a wiki page on how to do this. There's a controller, which you have to start. So Python 3.10, FastChat server controller, I'll background that. And so now it has a server running on port 21001. Then you have to have the model worker, which is I'm guessing this is what actually feeds the data to the model. And this command is not right. It should be using Python 3.10. So serve model worker, and it's using FastChat T5 model. The model name is chat. This can be anything, but when you're using the API could have multiple models available at a single time. And so you could have multiple of these workers running, and you could have your APIs serving multiple different models. The model name is what you use to determine which model you want to use. I'll just call this chat because that's what the OpenAI calls their main model. There's chat and text, I think. So I will call this chat and start the model worker. So now we have the model worker running on port 21001. And then the final thing to do is start the API server. And this will let us use the API. And now I have another terminal session on the same machine, and I can use this to call localhost v1 models. And this shows the models that we have available. So the root model is chat, which is the FastChat T5 model. And now I can use completion. I can use the completions API to interface with the model. And so I have something saved here. There's two different ways you can use it. I think this is the chat mode, and this is, I forget what this one is called, but there's two different ways you can use the API. This one seems to take longer, but the output is, it gives you more output. So it might take a little while for this to run, but you can see in the logs here that the worker is processing it. Post token count. I'm not sure how many tokens it uses by default, but the first time I tried it, it outputted a response with maybe 5,000, 10,000 tokens, which is a lot. And it did take a while, but just this one VM that I was able to spin up, being able to get that kind of response seems pretty amazing. Here it is. And so here's the response we got, chat completion. Finish reason stop. It didn't run out of tokens. It gave me a 600 token response. No, the prompt was 600. The response is 1,000 tokens. So that seems pretty good. You can ask it other stuff. What is GitLab? And so the technology is there. We would just have to find models that we can use with this. One model that seems very promising is Vicuna. I've heard that this is almost on par in quality with GPT, and I tried to use that model, but I found that I tried to run that model as well, but I found that in order to get the model data for Vicuna, you have to go ask Facebook for it. So here's the instructions. It's basically the llama model data. And if you want to use the model, you have to fill out this form here. So this is a request that goes to Meta. And I didn't want to go through this because I'm not sure if they would approve it. It looks like they're expecting it to be for academic purposes. And there's a license agreement, so I would have to get legal review to use it. But if we can acquire a model to use with this, it would be possible to self-host our own models. So here's the response I got for what is GitLab. GitLab is a cloud-based version control system for managing and tracking code repositories. It is based on the Git repository management system features and provides features such as branching, merging, and collaboration tools. Here's some of the key features of GitLab: branching, merging, collaboration, security, scalability. And this is all completely local. This is all on localhost. It is not reaching out to the internet to get these responses. It's computing this locally. So it's totally possible to self-host a model. And if you want to support these AI features on-prem, we could package this and provide it, like provide an installer for this and have people self-host their own AI models that they can use with GitLab features. So it definitely seems doable. And it's just a matter of finding models. So I think we could start laying down the infrastructure for this and start plugging models into this. And I think that this has some really promising potential for bringing AI features to self-manage. So I hope you found this research interesting and helpful. And thanks for watching.